Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the man cave of madness. It's the middle of the evening and we are starting our playthrough of Battle of Baton Rouge. This is set in September of 1779 from the Historical Game Company. It's the first of the series of these 5 games, and I'm going to play as a linked campaign, little campaign rules I made up myself. It's January 31st. It's going to be my first game for the year for the War Rooms 10-game challenge. So we're getting this in January. All right, now first we're going to give a little historical background. We're going to do a really quick how to play reminder. I did a detailed one on Fort Jefferson attack that I played last year. But let's talk about this interesting situation here. This is a fort created by the British near Baton Rouge, which they had started calling New Richmond. So this is New Fort Richmond. How did the British get to be in Baton Rouge? Well, let's roll back a little bit. Florida was a colony established by the Spanish in 1513, and they controlled it up to 1763. Now, 1763, did the Spanish lose a war and lose control of part of Louisiana and Florida to the British? No. Didn't the French control Louisiana? Okay, so complicated. You think, Meandering Mike, what's going on? So the Spanish traded. They traded Florida to the British in 1763 for Havana, Cuba. Yes. Also, in 1773, England got control of Baton Rouge as part of the Treaty of Paris. And that's when they changed the name of Baton Rouge to New Richmond. Now, they got that from the French. Well, actually, the Spanish from the French, because in 1762, the French ceded Louisiana to Spain. Yes, so it's all a little complicated, all this stuff going on beforehand. So when we roll forward to the start of the American Revolutionary War, the Spanish were in control of Louisiana, the southern portion, New Orleans, and around there. The British had Florida, west and east regions, and they had north of New Orleans and up the Mississippi River, Baton Rouge, and north. And the French were gone from this area. So the Spanish declared war on the British in May of 1779. But the colonial subjects, the Spanish colonial subjects in the Americas, did not get authorization to conduct war against the British until the early part of July. And in late July, the colonial governor of Louisiana, Bernardo de Galvez, he learned this news in late July. So he immediately started planning an attack. He wanted to say, well, let's see what we can get back from the British here. Let's take advantage of this. And so he started marching northward, upriver, up the Mississippi. The first fort was Fort Butte. It was a small fort. There was a little bit of fighting. One German mercenary got killed and the fort surrendered. Now, earlier, much earlier than this, the British knew that they got into a fighting battle that Fort Butte was not really feasible to hold. So that's when they built New Fort Richmond. So when the Spanish were then marching north past Fort Butte, this is what they encountered here. So down here is the Mississippi River, and the Spanish are entering over here, heading this way. The British are set up in the fort with their native allies, the Humas and the Atacapas. The Spanish have these dark blue are militia, and some of these are French, because there's still French people. This is the Fixed Regiment of Louisiana. The yellow, these are the Spanish regulars. There's one American unit here. Now, the Spanish have 4 artillery pieces. One, this is the cavalry symbol there. It's chasseurs, distinguished chasseurs. No, these are the chasseurs. These are, no, just distinguished carabiners, yes. And this is the chasseurs, T-O-C, not sure the French, chasseurs, okay. These are all coming on at these entry hexes here. Now, the victory conditions are, if the Spanish take, that's something falling over there on the side, ignore that. If they take Dickinson's headquarters, Dickinson is in charge here. If they take the headquarters, game over, it's done. Otherwise, before the end of turn 24, and I have never played one of these games yet that got to 24 turns, but we'll see. Their alternate method of winning, as the Spanish is, to control, actually occupy, have units in these 2 supply points, and there are 12 eliminated British units. Now, when we say British here, that means the British player. So that would include any of the red British units, the black German Waldeck mercenaries, or the Allies. Those are all quote-unquote British player units. Now, in this game, whenever we have these cards, which we'll talk about in a minute, that tell you how many units you can activate for movement and attack each turn. There's also an event. The movement and attack will tell you British units or Spanish units, and they made any and all for that player. There are special events in these that talk about a particular nationality, and then they mean that. They don't mean, so if it says, for example, the Waldecks, they mean just the Waldecks, and if it says the British, they mean just the British in the event. So for the activations, the movement and attack, it's all that person's side. But in the thing, you have to look at the context of what it's saying, and it can be a subset of units like militia units or whatnot. All right, so that is the history here. Now, historically, this siege took place for about 10, 11 days, something like that. Quote unquote siege, battle siege. When I think siege, I think longer term, but yeah, sure. It's, if it's more than a day or 2 or 3, it's a siege. So very quickly, it's an I go, you go game. Spanish player goes first, then the British player. Now, instead of traditional I go, you go, where you move all your units, then attack with all units, and then it's an exercise, you draw cards. So I'm going to take a card here from the middle of the deck. I'll get to the top and just reshuffle. How many you can move, how many you can attack with, and your special event. All right? The first 2 turns of the game, you're not limited by the card movements and attacks. Now you can move all your, because they got a lot of units to move on, and they're not going to get in range to attack on the first turn. Well, I suppose the cavalry running up the road. No, this is only 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the carabiners could actually charge up and attack all by himself, but that would be kind of foolish. He'd get swamped and overwhelmed, and that would just be a loss of the nice unit. So you ignore the movement, but you always use the random event. Now let me shuffle this back in here. So it's I go, you go, but you're limited to the number of units you can move and attack with each turn. Some turns are very generous. Some turns are a little sparse. On the average, each side, has a little more or less than the other side, depending on the nature of the game. How many is typical? Let's see if I move that forward and down. Do I have a little less glare? Zooming in makes it worse, sort of. Well, what we want to be zoomed out for right now, so we can see these guys coming in. Now, when you move, your movement allowance is the far right-hand number. The far left-hand number, let's zoom in for this. All right, well, that's nice and glaring. We can see these Indians here. So 1 is the attack strength, 6 is the defense strength, 4 is the movement, 2 in the circle is their range. So all these units have a minimum of 2 range, except for the artillery. That artillery has 4. And the Spanish artillery over there, the heavies, have a range of 5. Oops. And the light artillery has a range of 4. They can actually move 3. The heavies can move 2. The British fort guns only have a movement allowance of 1. All right. Most of these infantry all have 3s, exception being those natives that we saw. And then over here for these are mounted carabiners and chasseurs. Everyone else moves 3. Yes. Now, okay, that movement allowance is important also for combat in one case, which we'll talk about in a little bit here too. The way you do combat is you roll a die and you add your attack factor. So, and then you look at the defender's defense. So let's set up, a hypothetical here, just out in the open. Say if, let's see here. Of course, that's too close. I'll probably never be fighting way out here, but we're showing you for the example. So let's say this Waldeck unit decided to come out from the wall, starting to try to attack this guy. The Waldeck guy would add 2 to a die 6, so getting between 3 and 8, and we compare it to this 6 defense. If you roll equal to defense or 1 greater, you disrupt the guy, which means flip him over, and you have to retreat 2. All right? If you rolled 2 greater than the number, you would kill him outright. So that seems, wow, that seems hard to kill a dude outright. And in general, it is. It's even worse when there's terrain involved. So adding 2 to a die 6, if you rolled a 6, you'd get an 8. 8 is 2 greater than 6. Bam, he would be killed immediately. Otherwise, he would retreat. Now, and be demoralized. If you attack a guy that is already demoralized, he still has his full 6. This shows he can't attack and move. But if you are demoralized and you get another demoralization result, or disorganization, demoralization, you are eliminated. All right? So that's the way most deaths happen, is from bang, bang, double whammies. So something to note about range combat. Oops, let's move it up here. If you move, you cannot shoot at range the same turn. If you move up next to a guy, you can close assault him, close combat. But if you move up, you won't be able to shoot into your next turn. So you have to be in position to shoot at range. Okay, that's pretty important to the way your tactics will work and how you maneuver. Now, when you move, you must stop when you move next to an enemy unit because of their zone of control. 6 hexes surrounded, standard hex encounter type zones of controls. However, if a unit is in their disorganized, demoralized state, they have no zone of control, and you could penetrate the line. So you had, this, the guy could get to here. He could come up here, say, aha, I'm next to this guy, but he doesn't have a zone, and then I could penetrate to here. Whereas if you came this way, if they were both not, he'd have to stop here, or here he couldn't penetrate. So very important to remember about that. Now, something else to note, however. If you move here like this, it's your turn to attack. You may not attack a unit if you are in the zone of control, other than one of the units you're in the zone of control. What that means is, you penetrated to here, you can't shoot at this guy. You have to pay attention to the guy that you're in the zone of control. And that would matter whether it is here or here. If you're next to a unit that's demoralized, basically, but you're also next to some other unit that still has a zone of control, you're going to have to shoot at one of those guys. So there could be like here and here. You'd have a choice. This guy here could penetrate to here, but he would have to attack one of these guys if he's attacking, not him. Very important rule, which I missed the last time I played the Fort Jefferson. That implication that if you are next to an enemy unit, multiple enemy units, and some of them, don't have a zone of control, you can't shoot at those guys, the demoralized guys, if you're next to one of these other guys. All right. So I said I was going to try to make this short, so let's not go into too much. Terrain adds to the defense. So if this guy were here, can you see? There, here. Let's do it here now. This guy were here, and he was there at the start of his turn, so he can shoot at range, and he's shooting at this artillery here. See that fort line? The fort line, redoubts and forts add 2 to the defender. So he would have a 7 defense instead of a 5. So if he's rolling his shot, rolling a die roll plus 2, he would have to roll a 5 or a 6 to get a net 7 or 8 just to equal and demoralize the guy. He could not kill him outright, and he'd only have a 1/3 chance of demoralizing him. Now, if you had a bunch of guys here, you could have one shoot and hope to demoralize them, and then another one shoot and hope to demoralize them. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can elect to combine attacks. You can have 2 units attack, and you take whichever has the best strength. So, for example, let's say we've got a simple militia here. This guy would be the primary. He would support him, and support, regardless of the strength, just adds 1. And you can only combine with 2 units. You can get 2 plus 1 extra. So whether it's this guy or this guy, this would be the same. If he attacked with him combined, he'd be adding 3. Same thing for him. Okay, and then you'd be going against the 7, adding 3. So combined attacks are what. So they could actually roll the 6 compared to the net 7 defense. A 6 adding 3 would be 9. They could actually kill this outright. There are cards that can give a bonus. Okay, it can give you a plus to certain kind of units for that one turn. So those are important to take advantage of. Be ready to you might not do an all-out assault, but you're waiting for some card to come up. Now, okay, so we mentioned you have to you can't move in range, but you can move up and do close combat. You can have a mix of close combat and range. So, for example, this guy may have already been here at the beginning of the turn. This guy may have been back here, and he could move up, and then in their combat phase, he can close combat, he can support. You can shoot over friendly units. You can't shoot over enemy units. So if you're here, this guy has to attack one of the guys he's in the zone of control of. He cannot shoot over here. He couldn't shoot over because they block. But if these are both disorganized, so they're demoralized, they had no zone of control, he would have to shoot at one. He still couldn't shoot here because even though he wasn't in the zone, because if these are both demoralized, he couldn't shoot over them. You can shoot over friendly guys, though. Intervening forest and walls. When you're next to the wall, you can shoot over either side. But this guy, let's say he wasn't here. Well, let's see. Let's use an artillery example because artillery has a long range. All right, this 5 range artillery here. All right, here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He could potentially reach back here and shoot one of these guys. Yeah, sorry for that glare. It's hard to do anything about that. All right, here from this angle. I wonder if I slid this way. Yeah, that works a little less clear, doesn't it? So he could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He could reach here. But normally you'd say, I can't shoot over this. Well, let's say he's here. You can't shoot over this fort line because it's not next to the defender. He could shoot this guy because he's next to it, but he could shoot this. Now, this hill here, this battery mound, as it's called, any artillery on there does not have its line of sight blocked, period, by anything. So technically, if there was a swarm of enemy units all here, he could be shooting over all of them and shooting in here wherever he wants, willy-nilly. That's a special rule here for hills don't block line of sight. And then for this one, you know, when you're on the edge of the hill, that's the normal rule. This one, even a guy back here. So this is sort of my planned formation here for the Spanish to have 2 4-strength guns here, 1, 2, 3, 4. They could be bombing this, and this guy's 5 range. So all these guys could be bombing this whole hill here. And this guy here, even though he's not next to this ridge line, it's all high enough. They're all considered to be close enough to the center of the battery mound that they're being able to shoot there. So, all right, combat movement, zone of control. Okay, retreats. When you are hit and get, you're not eliminated outright, but you're demoralized, disordered. It's like between demoralized, disorganized, and disordered. Disordered is the correct technical term here. You must retreat. You must retreat 2 spaces. You cannot retreat into a zone of control. If you cannot retreat, you can retreat through friendly units. You cannot obviously retreat into an enemy unit. But if you cannot, you don't have a free space because there's all sorts of zones or there's so many units behind you, there's no place to retreat to. You die instead. So this here is safe. If this guys bombard this guy and he gets disordered and has to retreat, he can retreat over these lines. So I'm leaving a gap here. I didn't pack them all here. I didn't start with anyone in Dickinson's headquarters. I wanted to make sure that these guys here had some place to retreat to. Okay, something to keep in mind. Don't necessarily pack everyone as far forward as you can. I'll always have a thought out for where you might be able to retreat to. All right. Well, when you're disordered, how do you get undisordered? At the end of your turn, there's a rally step. If you are not in an enemy zone of control, any of your disordered units that aren't in an enemy zone of control can flip back to the normal size. All right? So if they shoot at you in their turn, you have to wait till the end of your next turn to have a chance to rally and no longer be disordered. Now, there's a chance to get disordered in your turn, and that's there because there's defensive fire. After you move, before you attack, the enemy player can shoot with so all 3 units, 3 of their units to try defensive fire. Now, these 3 shots cannot be combined. There must be 3 separate attacks. Now, they can attack the same unit more than once. That's always possible. But you can't combined attack for that bigger plus. After the combined attack, or the defensive fire is done, any non-disordered units. So obviously, if you go to charge up to attack the enemy, or you're within range and you're going to shoot at him, but he shoots you first and disorders you, you're not going to get a chance to shoot. You're going to be disordered. You're going to have to retreat. When packing up to attack, you also got to think about that. And if you're surrounded on your turn and you moved your other units, you don't have to defensive fire against the guys that moved. It's just after they moved, you could potentially elect to defensive fire against the guy that's surrounded, because if he has to retreat, he can't if you've surrounded him with zones of control. And again, remember, disordered units do not have a zone of control. All right, so one little exception to that rally at the end of your turn, if you're not zoned, is there's a card for each player in their decks where you can rally at the beginning of your turn all your units, whether they're in a zone of control or not. That is a really nice card to get. All right. Train effects. Like I said, the forts are adding 2. These are Spanish fort lines. They're actually something that they erected when they got there, so they're not actually considered there until a Spanish unit moves up into this side, and then those get created, and it benefits the Spanish. It does not benefit the British, and if the Spanish leaves the hex and the British take it, they can't utilize it. I think we're good, folks. That's it. You have to stop when you enter the woods. You have to stop when you cross a wall. You have to stop when you cross a stream. They actually left off the stream on the combat results table there, but I'm viewing it as a +1 if you're close assaulting across the stream, because I think that's the way they used it in another rule. You have to stop once you cross it. Obviously, the bridge, if you can move across the bridge, there's no effect. You can run right across there. Tacking up a hill, like so these hill lines here, from the lower side to the upper side, it's just +1. It costs 1 to go up. So getting up this battery mound is going to cost them. They're going to be moving up, trying to get up there, get their artillery there. We'll start playing, and we're 26 minutes in. I think I was gonna start playing, but I think I'll just call it here. It's 26 minutes. We'll start filming the playthrough here immediately thereafter, but we'll keep these 2 separate things. But if the Spanish aren't smart and don't occupy this is why the British have their natives that move forward, so units that move forward, could run up this road and try to get up on this hill before the Spanish do, and try to just be a nuisance and slow them down, maybe. Maybe even set them up closer, because there's no way that, well, let's see, they're too far forward, the chasseur and the carabiner coming on over here. Could go half, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they could start a little farther forward to try to be an annoyance. And maybe, who knows, they might suck the chasseurs and carabiners forward and get them killed early, which we'll see. Anyway, Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness. We're just crossing the 28-minute mark. So, yep, we're going to cut this here and then film the next one immediately. I'm not going to play every single turn like I did on Fort Jefferson. I will maybe give, every turn or 2 or 3 important spots of interesting action and things like that. Or if I want to highlight a rule again, like, oh, by the way, this or that. So, take care. Ciao, and see you on the battlefield.